Thank you, Ritas, for starting the presentation for me. That's exactly how I was about to start it. And I'm sorry that I don't have a dance exercise prepared for you. However, I have only visuals on my slides, no texts. So I think that's perfect for the end of the day. So that is true. We are the first privately funded modern and contemporary art museum of this scale in Lithuania. Yes, and we see museum as a creative platform and a place for social exchange and inspiration. So even though I don't come from the background of a cultural capital, we do adopt similar techniques, I would say, and similar values as well in our young institution. And we're going to be, when we open, here it is. When we open, we're going to be a very dynamic cultural venue with 6 temporary exhibitions each year, and of course, an engaging public programming. And so here you see the building, but you must have seen the founders before. Well, never mind, we'll start with the building. And this is a very interesting project by Danguolė and I'll expand on that a little bit later. But now let's go to the people who actually made this happen. So who are these groundbreakers? So these are Danguolė and Viktoras Butkus, and they started this initiative in 2009, so almost 10 years ago. And they are brilliant scientists and successful business people, but first and foremost, philanthropists and avid supporters of the arts. And the investment they've done until now is 20 million euros towards the building and the collection, which is actually one of the biggest collections of modern and contemporary Lithuanian art in the world. However, after the opening, we're going to be a self-supporting institution, so the whole way we work is going to change drastically. And now we're in this liminal, interesting, challenging stage of construction, and that's the building I mentioned by Danguolė, and he's the architectural mastermind behind the Jewish Museum in Berlin, in Germany, many other great cultural institutions, and also the World Trade Center master plan in New York. We're located at the heart of Lithuanian capital in Vilniuje, so an hour drive from here, really close. We're neighbors with the future capital of culture here in Kaunas. And let's move on, because I know that we don't have much time. So we're opening this year. It's very easy to remember. It's the 18th of the 10th month of the year 2018, so 18th of October. And it's going to be, well, we're hoping it's going to be one of the most celebrated events of the Eastern European cultural life this year. And the opening is going to be quite exceptional. It's 100 hours of non-stop events. So, of course, it's opening of the inaugural exhibition, but then there are going to be concerts, performances, talks, and much more. And for the decade, since the 2019, before we even started thinking about getting a building, we were a museum without walls. And we did a lot of educational projects and publishing. So there were projects in the public spaces of the city that are still functioning now, and we're going to support them when we open the actual museum, and also 25 publications on art, design, architecture for children and adults as well. But most importantly, and that's why I'm here to talk with you today, the most important are projects that involve different communities. So there's one with teachers and students in local schools, the other one with private business and scientists, and the last one with tech professionals. So the first one is called the Traveling Museum. So we didn't have a building and we wanted to reach our future audiences, and we had to go to them. And so this was museum educators going to meet communities and schools, so 20 communities and 20 schools last year in 2017. So we met with 1,200 students, and I'm going to talk about that mostly because with communities it's a more traditional Q&A format, and this year we're visiting the 7 biggest cities in Lithuania, so you're very welcome to come. But in schools, we did this project in the Vilnius region, so it's not only the capital, but also the region around it. And we invited 5th to 8th graders to explore their creativity and to get to know Lithuanian art. And we really wanted to bring art closer to schools and the everyday lives of students and pupils. So we did these activities based on analysis of visual artworks, and our main goal was to help students develop their creativity, critical thinking and communication skills, but also understand certain social issues and get to know the world that they're living in. And during the educational activities, they got to discover that art is much more than just this boring adult stuff. It can be fun and it can be engaging, but they also learned to understand the visual language of the artworks. They learned to talk about them and to express their views freely, but to be open to what others had to say. And also we talked about what a museum is, what the functions of a museum are, why do we still need museums today? And they were actually our first audience who got to know about what the Mo Museum is going to be like when it opens. So these were sort of the benefits for the children and the teachers, but for us it was crucially important to get to know the needs and expectations of this audience and to make a direct contact with them, and also carry out this sort of on-site research in order to create relevant and user-friendly content which will be available once the museum opens. So moving on to a very different audience that we worked with. So we had this HR project called Art Laboratory with Thermo Fisher Scientific here in the Baltics. So this is a big biotechnology company. And with them, we had quite a different format. We had five activities throughout 3 months. We had a guided tour, visit to the artist's studio, lecture on, or more of a discussion on Lithuanian art history, visit to our storage area to show a bit of the, behind the scenes, and also curatorial workshops. And there were 2 art historians from our side and 16 employees from theirs. And so the goal was getting to know Lithuanian art through curating an art show, an exhibition, which you can see here, exhibited in their headquarters. So what happened there, and where the great outcomes for the people participating, was of course boosting the motivation, because their workplace offered them something they've never done, something exciting, something new, something enriching, but also simply getting to know each other, because we worked with 16 employees from different departments, from scientific to accounting staff that probably never met during the day. And also, of course, soft skills, teamwork, creativity, critical thinking, flexibility. But what was very important, I think, was sort of getting out of your comfort zone and finding things about yourself and others through activities that were unusual for each of those participants. And so the result was an actual art exhibition with pieces from our collection in their workspace. And they installed the show, they even produced a little catalogue, so they wrote the texts, and so it was a pleasurable participation out of their comfort zones. But for us, it was also a big challenge, because as you can see in this photo, just to illustrate a bit, these are the workers, but you can see a very excited lady there with a pipette, and she's our art historian, so they were really involved in the world of these scientists and really challenged. And it was a real eye-opener on how people from a completely different industry experience art and what is important for them. And once again, we try to use this feedback and this experience when we build our programs at the museum. And it was also a very important experience of collaborating with a private business in a very direct, very intimate way, I would say, which will be crucial in the future. As we are going to support our activities ourselves. And then the last, but definitely not least, the most recent of our projects, it's Art Hackathon, and it was done in cooperation with Login, which is the largest tech conference within the Baltics. And it was a classic hackathon format, so you had the inspirational speakers, one of them trying to inspire the audience. Does it work? I don't know. But one of them is just there, and it's team leader for digital programs at the Victoria and Albert Museum, and head of marketing from Van Gogh Museum, as I'm pronouncing it right. He was trying to teach us. So these two wonderful people were there to inspire the audience, and then there were developing ideas in teams, mentoring sessions, pitches, all of that. And this comes from more of a tech background. That's what we do with hackathons, don't we? It's more for the tech community. But we found that using this tool, let's say, in the art background, in order to create generate an idea for digital innovation that will let people experience modern art as interesting, fun, engaging, was very useful for an art museum. Once again, we got to work with the audience, which we don't normally work with in that way, in that creative, open environment. And, well, we were very happy and actually a bit surprised, because you can see the excited winning team, which only met on the day. They didn't know each other before, and they were able to work in such a productive and inspiring way that they, provided the best idea. So what they created was a chatbot, and it's sort of a computer program which a museum visitor can chat with about specific works of art that you can see, in the gallery room. And the chatbot imitates a real person's writing and can thus conduct a realistic conversation. And it will be fed content about the works of art and artists themselves, and with a bit of programming and a bit of artificial intelligence magic, it will then be able to generate answers to museums' visitors' questions. So instead of just reading a label on the wall, you can actually have a conversation about what this is, why is this art, could I do it as well, etc. And so our goal is an enriched and personalized experience of the visitor, using a tool that all of us get more and more acquainted to, more and more used to, your phone, your tablet, etc. So the More Museum will help develop the idea to prototype level, and you can experience that on the 7th and 8th of June at the Login Conference in Vilnius, and then on the 9th to 10th of June at Art Vilnius, which is the biggest art fair in the Baltics. And then the team will have time to prepare the final functioning project, which will be available at the museum starting from the 18th of October. And just a little outcome of this, and the whole 3 projects were an experience of bringing different communities in contact with the museum. And it was very direct contact, and we got to know what their expectations are, how do they imagine a museum, what would they like to find in a museum when it opens. And we're continuing this effort in bringing a community around us, and by developing a modernist movement, which is quite unique in Lithuania. It's sort of a membership program for a museum, but it's also a community of museum supporters who share the same ideas as us, but also by building the volunteer community, which is very important for each cultural project, and especially a museum. And tomorrow, on the occasion of the Museums Night, the modernists and the volunteers who have already registered can actually visit before the ribbon-cutting ceremony, so they can have a look at the building with our team members. So basically, at the moment, we're asking a question, so what's next? What's the next step? And we're quite a small team, we're a private museum, not a big one, and in order to continue this communication with the public, communication with the audience, we need these sort of continuous collaborations with our partners. And that's what I meant when I said that we see a museum as a creative platform. We see it as a place where either a community of professionals or a community of volunteers, you name it, can come, can work on a project, can tailor it for themselves, but we help them to make it available to the wider audience. And at the same time, on the other hand, we experience the same communities to interact with what we have to offer and to create around our basis of artwork and our basis of cultural knowledge. So we hope to see you all at the museum starting from the 18th of October, and thank you very much for staying here until the very last speech. Thanks.
Ugnė Paberžytė from More Museum. Take my compliment. You are a small team, but you are very visible, and I like it a lot. I'm looking at Pete. Will you have a question for Ugnė?
No.
Yeah?
I do.
Okay, so please.
Who designed your logo, and why did I not see it among the finalists of the Lithuanian Design Forum Award for Good Design in Lithuania this year when I was in the jury? Because it's good.
Thank you. We had an advertisement company who did this. It's called New. It's a brand similar to ours, and we really liked working with them, and we still are collaborating. Because they're looking for new things, just as we are, and they're looking at their audience and trying to find out what the audience is expecting, etc., etc. Why wasn't it at the competition that you mentioned? I'm not sure. Maybe it will be. Maybe when we develop the whole branding thing, then we will go, and I hope you will be in the in the committee. And then
Okay, we have one more question here.
Thank you, Candace, for your invitation and to get acquainted more with these good practices. My question is, because today we heard a lot about the idea of independence, so my question is, do you feel more, connected to the communities because of your status of independent organization, and how and in which manner do you have a connection with the municipality? So that's my question. Thank you.
So starting from the end of your question, the municipality is supportive, and we're collaborating on different fronts, let's say, and we're negotiating certain deals linked with education of the younger audience, and I think that would be a very nice cooperation with them. And in terms of being independent, well, it's great, of course. The decision-making time is like that. I go to the director and she, and we discuss it, and I discuss it with the team, so that is great. But then it's an experiment as well. And as I mentioned, the founders, they're scientists. They're educated as scientists, and then they became business people, and now they're art, connoisseurs, if you may. So it's a big, evolving, experimental, crazy, scary, challenging, exciting thing. So you're independent, but independence also means that you're responsible for it entirely. You cannot point the finger at someone and say, look, they didn't give us money, or they, whatever. So it's really on your shoulders, and that's a great responsibility, but that's also very satisfying.
Have we got more questions for More Museum? Okay, thank you very much.